This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Well, welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. But it was a big day at the Arkansas State Capitol. Governor Sarah Sanders signed her historic legislation, the LEARNS Act, into law today. It has been a weeks-long process as this bill has navigated its way through the Arkansas State Capitol, both ends of the Arkansas legislature. She signed that into law today. We'll tell you a little bit more about that. And later, joining me in the program, Jacob Oliva, Arkansas Secretary of Education, discusses what comes next on the LEARNS Act. Stay tuned for today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. Talk Business and Politics Daily is brought to you by Wright Lindsay Jennings Law Firm, Impact Management Group, and these sponsors.
We proudly deliver reliable, affordable, responsible power across Arkansas. But demand for electricity is strained by the elimination of sources we need for always-on reliability. And adding intermittents like wind and solar cannot replace workhorses like coal and natural gas that we all count on. Power must be balanced for your needs and our mission. Reliable, affordable, responsible. We're the Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas.
Connection. It's the heart of what we do. It's why we work to better the communities where we live and work. It's why we're expanding to get people connected and create digital equity programs that support affordable internet and digital literacy. We're leaders for positive change. From the way we empower our people, clients, and communities to the way we care for our planet. We live our values every day. We're Cox Communications, and we're pleased to connect with you.
Together we can create an Arkansas that places children and families at the very top of the agenda.
We can create the type of Arkansas that we have always imagined.
Arkansas Advocates as an organization is the glue that can put all those families' voices together.
Well, Governor Sarah Sanders held a massive ceremony today at the Arkansas State Capitol in the Rotunda to sign her LEARNS bill into law. Senate Bill 294 has worked its way through the Senate and the House and then back to the Senate again to concur an amendment. That's been all over the last 2 weeks. It's certainly been a controversial bill. It is the linchpin and centerpiece of her education platform as governor. It is signed into law today. Here's a little bit about what the bill does in case you don't remember. The new law increases minimum teacher salaries to $50,000 and abolishes the Fair Dismissal Act. It establishes education freedom accounts, giving families access to state per pupil foundation funding to use for non-public schooling. It requires school safety programs, plus puts more funding into pre-K expansion, literacy programs, and workforce education. When we come back from this break, we'll be joined by Jacob Oliva. He is Arkansas's Secretary of Education. We'll talk to him about what comes next in this education bill process. We're back with more right after this. Talk Business and Politics Daily is brought to you by Wright Lindsay Jennings Law Firm, Capital Advisors Group, and these sponsors.
One of the things that I really liked about UAMS College of Health Professions is that they set me up for success. I chose UAMS because I felt like it was a great place to work. My grandmother was diagnosed at UAMS for multiple myeloma, and I felt like it would be a great way to pay back the place that helped my grandmother so much. And that's why I went in the healthcare field in the first place, is to help someone just like they've helped my grandmother.
For your education and healthcare needs, choose UAMS.
This is what we work for. The moments you live for. The joy. The heart. The wonder. At Entergy, we're dedicated to powering each moment. Today and for future generations. So we're leading the way with a cleaner, more reliable power grid to power every day. Because these moments matter. We power life. Entergy.
Joining me now, Jacob Oliva. He is Arkansas's Secretary of Education. He's had just a little bit of a busy couple of months. Welcome back to the program. Congratulations on passage of the LEARNS Act. I hope that
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You're new to Arkansas. You came from Florida. You've been around the process, the legislative process, a long time. But kind of tell me how it was different here in Arkansas versus what you've experienced in Florida.
So every kind of state's technical rhythm for how they work through the legislative process is a little bit different. Each state has their own state constitution and determine how committees are going to be organized, how the process moves from committee to the floor, and from the floor to the other chambers when you look at passing bills back and forth and making amendments along the way. So it's a little bit different process here in Arkansas, because once the bill was passed through the floor, both floors in the House and the Senate, it gets presented to the governor to be signing the law. And Florida, it's a little bit different. The bills don't get presented to the governor until after session's done and budget's passed. And the timeline, I think, works out a little bit more favorable for us here in Arkansas, because now that we know everything's codified in law, we can begin the work. We don't have to wait another 2 months for a session to drag on, wondering if the bill is going to be signed into law.
Well, I think you knew this one was going to get signed into law, so there was no mystery there. The governor has said for months, and I'm just going to pull a quote from something she has oft repeated, and that is that this is the boldest, most conservative education reform plan in the nation, end quote. I can point to some things in this measure that I'd consider liberal or progressive, even from pre-K and literacy and workforce education to teacher pay increases. And truthfully, it's got a pretty big price tag on it too. So what makes this so bold and conservative, or should she change her line to say it's bold, conservative, and progressive?
Well, when you look at something with this magnitude, with this vision, when you look at a comprehensive education reform that tackles early learning, all the way from early learning to elementary school, middle school, high school, and beyond high school, post-secondary attainment opportunities for technical education and beyond, that's bold, that's innovative, that is hitting every end of the educational spectrum. And what makes it conservative and what makes it visionary is that it's entirely focused on students and doing what's right for students. And a lot of times when you see progressive ideologies work its way into educational bills and initiatives, it's focused on the adults that are creating the systems. And this is focused on the students and not the systems. And it's holding the adults accountability to create the conditions that are going to make sure the students are set up for success.
All right. Thank you for that clarification. Months worth of rules and regulations now await you as the next step for here. Kind of tell me how you anticipate that process working from the department standpoint. Do you begin right away, even though the session is in terms of developing those regs and rules, or what do you wait?
No, when you're talking about creating conditions for students to be successful, we have to act with urgency. We have students that are in kindergarten for 1 year this year. In third grade, we have seniors in high school. So anytime we're working on supporting and creating conditions to make sure those opportunities are even better, you have to act with urgency and make sure that we get it right. So there's no shortage of work, which is exciting to me. I guess that we could say that there's job security for me and some of the folks in the agency, because you're right. There's a lot of rules, and the rulemaking process is about to begin. And in fact, we've been upfront and clear that as we navigate through this process, we're going to be as transparent and involve as many stakeholders to be involved in the process, to give as much feedback as they want. We actually kind of took the bill and organized 6 kind of different themes, or I even call them 6 different buckets. Maybe there's a bucket that's dealing with part of legislation that works on workforce. There's a bucket that works on improving teaching and learning. Maybe a bucket on early learning environments. So we've identified the different sections into those themes and buckets, and we're going to put out a statewide call. So we're looking for teachers, parents, school administrators, business people, concerned citizens, anybody that wants to sign up to be considered to join a work group. We're going to put a statewide call, and we're going to go through there and get these work groups established and start navigating through that process to act with urgency.
Will these work groups, will they be in-person meetings around the state? Are they going to be virtual to some degree? How do you envision that?
It's probably a hybrid, and each group's going to kind of work around the members' schedules that work best for them. But I like to think oftentimes when you're face to face and you can spend some time in a room, you can be a little bit more productive. But also some of the introductory topics and the way of work and what we're going to do and how we're going to support each other, that could be done virtually. And we're going to be accommodating to the member schedules, because it's going to be a commitment, and we're going to go into that knowing that that commitment's a big deal for people to ask to maybe interfere with their personal and professional lives, but we want to get it right. And I've already heard from dozens of people all over the state that say, count me in, whatever you need, I want to be a part of it.
Just one last question on that front. When do you anticipate this call for these invitations for people to join these working groups? When will that begin? How quickly will that come out?
It'll be out in the next 2 weeks at the latest. So now that the bill has been codified, we've been internally working towards this day in anticipation, so that we're ready to go. In fact, we have about 15 educational cooperatives around the state that are organized into different regions. And we have already scheduled in-person meetings with myself and the teams and the leaders of those cooperative education work groups. We're starting as early as Friday, going into the school districts to sit everybody around a table and say, okay, let's talk about next steps and how we're going to implement this bill with fidelity, and ultimately make sure we're setting up students for success and we're going to see learning improve.
I know the goal is to get as much of this in place as you possibly can by the next school year, which just gives you less than probably one handful of months to get this in place and intact. There is the potential for a lawsuit that will come on Lakeview. I think everybody would anticipate one based on the Lakeview precedent. You and I've talked about this issue before. Arkansas's Constitution says it has to provide an adequate and equitable education. Is your agency prepared to defend on that issue, particularly on the equity side? Because I think that's where the arguments are going to be coming the strongest in terms of the school choice portion of the law.
Yeah, so it'd be unfortunate if people are clogging up the court system with a frivolous lawsuit that I don't think has any merit behind the initiative of the Learns bill. And if that does happen, we'll stand behind navigating through that process, but we're not going to slow down and wait for that. We're going to act with urgency and begin the work.
Senator Breanne Davis, Representative Keith Brooks, two of the main sponsors on the Learns Act, said in sponsoring the bill, this is, quote, only the beginning. What's the next step beyond rules and regs? I mean, are you already thinking beyond what's in this Learns Act in terms of what policy might need to be further adopted?
Well, I think that's a good question. And as we kind of look at that cradle to career approach, I think we're going to identify more opportunities as we get deeper into implementation. And our agency is being tasked with let's start with quality childcare and early learning environments, and identifying opportunities to increase the presence of high quality providers in parts of the state that may not have that. And we want to make sure that every parent that wants to participate in high quality early learning programs, whether it's through childcare or voluntary pre-kindergarten, has the opportunity to do so. So as we are implementing some of the policy recommendations, we might identify opportunities that may come with a request, whether it's through funding or flexibility to help mom and pop homes open up quality childcare providers, or working with a faith-based community or even a business community to pilot some initiatives. I think there might be, even on the post-secondary side, an opportunity to look at how credits articulate from one institution to another, and that if students are earning credentials of value, that we make sure they're getting accepted. And even when the work groups are established and we start designing the rules and really defining the processes and procedures for how some of these programs will be implemented, we might identify some opportunities there.
Last question for you, and I appreciate your time on this. I know It's a busy time for you. You obviously saw through the hearing process a variety of people who were greatly and strongly opposed to the Learns bill. They were educators, teachers, parents, school board members. You knew there was going to be some dissent out there in the public. What do you do to reach out to those people and say, it's the law now. How can we work together more in partnership? I get the impression that you are a bridge builder, and so I'm just kind of wondering how you are going to reach out to folks that have, very vigorously opposed this measure.
Yeah. So step one, I think it's about being visible and being open, honest, and transparent. And I like to kind of say I can't wait till session is done so I can get out of the Capitol halls and into the school halls. And we'll find that we're able to build those bridges and look for good ideas from practitioners, people that are making a difference and an impact to students' lives. They've got great ideas. In fact, I get emails from teachers all the time with ideas, and I respond to each and every one of those emails, and I appreciate them. And as early as Friday, as I stated, I'm going to be out in regions, out in the communities, listening to district leaders who are talking to their teachers and their parents and principals about ideas on how we can do even better. And that's what this is about. It's about engaging in a cycle of continuous improvement, and we're going to continue to do that. And as we go through this, I look forward to seeing the results and moving Arkansas into the top 5 in the nation across all categories.
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I just want to make sure I'm interpreting this accurately. You're inviting some of those dissenters and those naysayers to collaborate. You're asking them
Absolutely.
to please give me a chance to have a further dialogue with you. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'll sit down and meet with anybody. We may not always agree, but I firmly believe everybody that is strongly passionate about the topics of improving education have the same goal, and that's what's right for students. We might have different approaches or different ideas on how we get there, and that's okay. But I'm always open and willing to meet with anybody and listen to multiple perspectives and points of view. And I'm never going to surround myself with yes people. I tell my staff all the time, I want you to push back. I want you to tell me why this won't work or will work, because ultimately we need to get it right. And that's our jobs as adults. And when we get it right, students succeed.
All right. He's Jacob Oliva. He's Arkansas Secretary of Education. Always good to visit with you. Thank you for your time.
Likewise. Anytime. Thank you.
And that is all for today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. We appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.